He rose to a senior level, but is now one of its most hated enemies.
I am a Christian counselor. You know, I'm a family counselor, and because I have experience with Scientology as a former member, obviously I was in the best position to talk to Odhran about his involvement. And then you have the whole area of what we call exit counseling. And the whole purpose of an intervention is simply to offer the member the opportunity to see information he's not been shown. And I operate as a Christian counselor totally with the premise that people are there to talk to me by their own consent. If they don't want to talk to me, I'm out of there.
In my experience, a lot of people are spending a lot of money. I have counselled, I suppose, 20 people in the last few years who have left Scientology. And in every case, I find a case where they have been hounded, pushed, phoned up, contacted for courses. Even when they've left the house 5 years later, I've got people saying, would you like these books that they're sending here? That's a strange way to be a church. That seems to me more like the way that a business operates.
It's natural for families to be concerned or to have a fear of the unknown. This is a natural phenomenon. But a deprogrammer will come along and they will seize upon this, they will inflame it with propaganda, with distortions, with misinformation, and they will turn those concerns into intense hatred and fear, to the point where the family will do anything needful to supposedly rescue their loved one from the new religion.
I think there's no doubt that they exercise pressure, but I think as soon as you say that, it's important to say that so do other organisations exercise pressure. Some of them are credited mainstream religious movements, or indeed things like rugby clubs and golf clubs. But equally, it would be true to say that those who are seeking to bring people out of organisations also use methods which are clearly interfering with their free will and freedom of action and freedom of movement.
The family's attempts to turn Odhran away from Scientology failed, and on June 1st last, what they had dreaded came to pass.
Odhran was working in the spa, and we've now been led to believe that two gentlemen walked in, one into this spa and also one into the lounge at the rear. And Odhran said to the barman that I'll be back in a moment. He walked out the door and basically he hasn't been here since.
He phoned me, right? And so I organised with him on the phone how we would make ourselves known to him and how he would make himself known to us. And then Odhran came out from the bar where he was working, jumped into the car, and we drove off. And he was absolutely delighted. I cannot stress how relieved and pleased this guy was.
Scientology says it doesn't tell members what to say to their families, but it describes ardent Scientology critics, including family members, as suppressive persons, and advises members how to handle communications with them, or, as a last resort, disconnect completely.
Yeah, I mean, Odhran is familiar with those materials, and he has advice from those materials, he has advice from us, and his advice is to start the relationship out with his family, absolutely. And I think it's clear, and the family should know, that he wants to reconcile. We've been saying it in the media, Odhran has said it in the media, he wants to reconcile things with the family. I think the requirement for that, which he sees and we see, is that the deprogrammers need to stop harassing the family and creating the conflict.
Scientology claims its methods are scientific, but the negative results of its personality test have conflicted with the results of standard psychological profiles. Its E-meter is supposed to identify past traumas by registering changes in the body's electricity when such events are called to mind, but we found that claim unconvincing.
Doesn't it have as much to do with how tightly I clasp the electrodes as it?
Yes, of course there's skin contact will obviously affect the electrodes, but normally in the counselling session, the person who's holding the cans is holding them in a relaxed manner, so they're holding the cans the same way the whole time.
Odhran Fortune, who now lives near Scientology's headquarters in England, has heard all the arguments against Scientology many times and has had many chances to leave. But he's chosen to continue as a full-time member and shows little sign of being brainwashed. He made it clear to us that it wasn't Scientologists whose attentions were unwanted.
What I want to say is actually I just wanted the program to leave my family and myself alone. They've done a lot of destructive action so far, and they're right behind the scenes here. I think they're even openly saying that they're trying to cancel my parents, but they're actually doing just a lot of destructive action. That's my message. That's it.
Do you think they're to blame for all the...
That's the message.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Odhran. Okay. Good luck.
I think it's very dangerous to belong to anything that has an extremely authoritarian leader who has complete control over the way you think and the way you feel. And the evidence would indicate in my case that Mr. Hubbard was a charlatan and a fraud, and he had a hidden agenda, and people should be protected from that.
What was his hidden agenda?
Well, his hidden agenda, I would think, was some sort of world control.
I still believe that Scientology and its beliefs are guaranteed by our Constitution, even though I profoundly disagree with them. I believe that they are not for the benefit of society as they claim. I believe them to be, of the groups in Ireland, the one that I would have the most concern about.
We have a methodology and we have educational materials that will help a person isolate those in their lives who are attacking them, because Scientology does have that methodology, which is new. This doesn't exist anywhere else, that you can actually isolate the kind of people who do give you a hard time, because sometimes they're not easy to spot. And in Scientology, the person can isolate who they are, and sometimes they're very easy to spot because they're just outright attacking you. And the person has to make up his own mind. He has to decide for himself whether he wants to sever a connection with that person.
When you see him so transformed by Scientology, it just says enough, that's enough. If he was doing something for himself and something we were really happy about her, he was really happy. We're just not happy. We're anything but happy. Because we see this transformation is just too great for us to be happy.
That report from David Nally. That's all from us for tonight. We're back again next Thursday, but until then, from everyone on the programme, a very good night.